All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Peter Swain. Peter, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone that's going to be listening in. Hopefully, we're entertaining and maybe even a little bit educational.
I guarantee you this is going to be entertaining and educational. So I have had the benefit of already having a conversation with you and well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Cheryl Snap Connor because Cheryl was the one that connected you and I. And I had actually put a post up on the quoted platform and she's like a PR person for you or something, right? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll, I'll tell you what, Peter, she's really good at talking you up, man. Because she messaged me telling me about you, and I'm like, heck yeah, I'd like to talk with Peter and get to know him. And so you and I did that, and I know it's probably been, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month ago or so now. And I'm not gonna lie, I was totally blown away by what happened on our Zoom conversation and what you did with AI. And I'm just like, wow. I've seen a lot of stuff with AI, but I've seen nobody do what you did with me on that Zoom call. And I've really been looking forward to this conversation. And so, what I want to do is, I just want to start off. I want to turn it over to you so we can set a little bit of context here. And you can talk about what you do and who you serve and what inspires you most about the impact you're making in the world. And also give us some of the backstory because I want to make sure people get to really hear that from you too and stuff.
sure. So, let's start with then the speed dating intro. Uh,
Okay.
so, I started coding when I was six because I wanted a baby brother, and my parents refused to buy one for me from Walmart. Um, so, my dad, who was in computers, gave me my first computer, my Spectrum ZX80. And said, "Go and code yourself, a brother." So this was 1983, and I was hooked from the first minute, like being able to like do stuff and create stuff. Because back then, you used to have to wait a month for a new game to come out, and it would come on a tape. So the idea that between that month I could build something and use something and do something myself kind of became a really driving force. So I started coding when I was six. I got a very small job doing beta testing for Microsoft when I was 12. And then by the time I was 17, I was in high school. I was 2 years ahead. I was predicted to go to a top tier university, everything going really, really well. And I went to this PC World user group with my dad again, and I met this guy called Tim Berners-Lee. And Tim Berners-Lee was the inventor of HTML and the World Wide Web. And he said, "There's this new technology coming out. It's going to be amazing. It's called the web. You should be in it." And that night, I downloaded the Sun Tzu's The Art of War from the University of Phoenix. And this sounds so weird because obviously my accent, I'm not from America, I'm British. And I thought Phoenix was a bird. Like the idea that I was downloading a book from the University of Phoenix, thousands of miles away, I was there was nothing else I wanted to do in my life but understand this technology. So I quit high school, which my parents certainly weren't very happy about, and I became one of the first web developers in the world. I had the 30-second listing on Yahoo. I built the UK version. I didn't build personally. I was one of the team that built the UK version of Yelp.
Okay.
So, all the way back to then, what I was fascinated around was disruptive technology. Fast forward a couple of years, I'd worked with people like Williams Formula One, Sony, Colgate, Amdahl, the Euros, Pet Shop Boys, The Cure, Erasure, IBM, Ford, a whole suite of names. But if you get to around the mid 2000s, I went to India to try and set up an offshore development company, which was a complete disaster. But anyway, but on the way back, I bought my first iPhone in customs in duty free. I bought the iPhone 3GS with the first one with the App Store, and I closed down my web business when I got home and said, "This smells the same." I wish I'd said something better, but this smells the same. And people are like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, the web allowed anyone to work with anyone, but it tethered you to your desktop. Mobile lets you work with anyone, but the difference is you can now do it from anywhere."
Yeah.
So it felt like the same one of those moments, like this kind of inflection moment, this paradigm shift in how humans would human and therefore how we would earn money and how we'd work and everything else. So I formed the first mobile agency that I know of in Europe, and we worked with McDonald's, Adidas, the BBC, Microsoft, Apple, Google. I was blessed enough to be retained by Steve Jobs directly for a few days, well, for a 6 month project, but I spoke to him a few times in there, which utterly blew my mind the way he worked. So this has kind of been all I've ever done, of just been at the forefront of the leading edge of the leading edge of a technology. And I guess my superpower throughout that has been to be able to pick up a piece of tech and understand what it's going to do and how much of an impact it's going to have and what to avoid and what not to avoid. So fast forward again, 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago, I downloaded the beta for ChatGPT in January 2023. I rolled up the business I was working on then, same kind of MO, said to the partners in that, thank you, I'm going to give back my equity. I can't be part of this anymore because this is where I have to be. And that's what we've been doing ever since. We've been helping entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small businesses understand AI. And when I say understand AI, what I'm referring to, and kind of what you alluded to earlier on, is what we refer to as integrated living. Because there's lots of people in AI. Some of them are very technical and they understand how this thing is actually working and how the sausage is getting made. But most people can't really relate to that. That's on one side. And then you've got some people over this side who are talking about, oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be able to do this, this, and this. And they're philosophizing about the future. Like Bill Gates is kind of in that list of like, this is the amazing stuff it can do in the future. But they're talking about stuff that's out of the purview of you and I.
Mhm.
And then there's a third group of people that are doomsaying, of going, this thing's going to end humanity as we know it. Which,
I've heard some of that too.
yeah, well, and they could be right, but that message doesn't really inspire anyone to make change.
Not really, does it?
So I'm not sure how helpful it is
Yeah,
if you know that to be true, telling people that that is true probably doesn't help very much.
yeah.
Then unfortunately, there's this other group of people, which are the people that sell prompt packs and $90 and their Instagram and YouTube. And what they've managed to work out how to do is something quite cool and geeky, but not really very transferable to people's everyday life. So our philosophy is, if AI is here to stay, which it is, then we have a choice of how we decide to bring that into our life so that it can amplify our capabilities as humans and it can allow us to do the things that are our zone of genius and allow us to use the word and more, not the word or. So this, just bear with me for a sec. This is kind of my core thing of, I want to be able to say that I want a great family life and I want a great marriage life and I want to respect my health journey and I want to earn tons of money and I want to have loads of impact. And I think that even a couple of years ago, that wasn't possible. What you would have to do a few years ago is say, well, choose. Like, do you want to be a great dad or do you want to earn lots of money? Because you can't do both of these things at the same time because they took too much time. So, what if you can plug AI into the various parts of your life so you can buy some of that time back, but to such a degree of efficiency that we've never seen before? Since we crawled out of a swamp, we haven't had this capability to go, I want to get paid for my zone of genius. I don't want to do the things that are not in my zone of genius. And that's where AI comes in and goes, well, sure, I can do that for you, and I can do that for you, and I can do that for you. And you're like, well, that's great. If all I have to do is this, like, I love doing podcasts, I love being on stages, I love talking to people. I don't like doing the follow-ups and the calendars and the arranging and the rescheduling and the posting and the cutting and the editing. I don't like that stuff. But this, I love doing this. So if this was my day, if I could have a day of 14 hours a day where all I did was talk to people about I would be crazy happy. And I'm willing to bet I'd be crazy wealthy as well. And I think it's true of everybody. If you're like, no, I don't want to do any of that stuff in front of the camera. What I want to do is this editing stuff because I'm amazing at that. Well, there's a whole set of inefficiencies that go inside that job that you don't want to do either. So if AI can just come in and step in and figure those things out, then we can just do the thing we want to do, which means we can do exactly what I've done today. Of an hour before this, I was out walking my dog. An hour before this, I was putting my kids to bed. An hour before that, I was having dinner. And an hour before that, I was in the gym. Because that's what my life now looks like of going, no, I want all of these things. I want to be a great husband, a great dad. I want my health. I want my spirituality, and I want my business. And AI's given me that. So it's a bit of a long introduction, but
No, that was
throughout
good though.
throughout time, that's kind of how I got here of going, what is this technology going to do? And I avoided social media as much as I could from a marketing perspective because I picked it up and went, this is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. And I still believe that to be sadly the case now, which is that it puts people into silos and echo chambers very, very quickly. And then the algorithm is designed to make you feel that you're right about whatever you're discussing, which isn't really very healthy. We're supposed to challenge each other's ideas. We're supposed to have some healthy conflict in our societies to make us know that we're probably not right. We're some varying degree of wrong. A friend of mine used to say, in a well-functioning democracy, everybody should be a little bit pissed off because no one should have it their own way. The left isn't correct, the right isn't correct, the center isn't correct. There's
Yeah,
wisdom in all of those conversations,
yeah,
and social media doesn't unfortunately lead us to have those conversations anymore to the same degree.
yeah.
I avoided Bitcoin for the same reason because I picked up Bitcoin and went, this is the most awesome solution that's waiting for a problem. Because it's mathematically genius and it's phenomenal, but what does it actually solve? We have very good payment rails and payment mechanisms in America and the UK and Europe. I think it has a real part to play in third world and second world countries where the level of corruption can affect the supply chain so much. But AI is different, and a lot of people don't seem to understand that because they look at it and go, "Well, it's just another tool," and it isn't a tool because it's a tool that can decide when it deploys itself and how it deploys itself, which has never existed before. So we have to look at this very differently. And I know everyone says that as you pick up any new piece of technology, oh, it's just a new way, we'll adapt, we'll refine, which we will. But this is something very different. This is essentially, I think, I think it's more impactful than if aliens landed tomorrow,
Wow. Wow.
because this is a new form of intelligence. And it's a form of intelligence that doesn't have any of the brittle things that a carbon-based life form like you and I have. It doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't need to eat. It doesn't need to rest. It doesn't need to have water. It doesn't need enrichment. It doesn't need so many different aspects that, us that we need as part of our being. It doesn't have. Now, that's not me saying that it's sentient. That's a whole different conversation. I'm not saying it's some kind of general intelligence that's going to rival us as human intelligence, but it is a form of intelligence. And if we met another alien, it would just be another carbon-based life form. And we're like, oh, so we're not alone. Okay, good. But they're so far away, we can't travel and go and see them anyway. So what does that mean? Whereas this thing is here, it's here now, it's everywhere, it's anywhere, and it will continue to grow. And the other thing that's weird that people can't wrap their head around, and I'm in this space and I can't wrap my head around it, is this is an exponential technology working on itself. So the rate of change in AI will only get faster, not slower.
Mhm.
And that's something I think when people hear that, they kind of want to stick their head in the sand because they're like, I can't keep up with this. I'm like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
Neither can I. And it's going to get faster, not slower,
Yeah.
which it requires a complete 180 in how we think. Anyway, it was quite a long answer, but hopefully there was some value in there.
Well, and it's a fascinating answer, and now I have a better understanding. Now knowing more of your background than I got to know before, I can see like man, you just have this background of getting into coding when you were at such a young age as soon as this AI thing came on the scene, I can see why you'd be like, I got to go here. you know,
There
I
was
mean, this
no
was
option.
such alignment for you, and and so And so I got it. Now I got a question before I move on. Because, there is a lot of people out there talking about, prompts and all that. And of course, it is all about input and stuff. And when you and I were on our Zoom call a month or so ago, just kind of meeting for the first time and getting to know each other, you kind of walked me through this and you did an example with me. And you just started talking to your AI and you mapped out this project, and it wasn't just like a couple of things. I mean, you were talking to it for a few minutes, telling it what to do and what you wanted and all this, and then you showed me the screen of what it put out, and like, that would have taken, I don't know, months to do something
Mhm.
like that before. And quite candidly, it's not like I'm way up on AI or anything, because I'm not, but I was just so blown away by what you did and how succinctly you described what you wanted.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, there's got to be a major importance in that, and like communicating
100%.
effectively too.
So yeah, and I'm really grateful you brought that up because what one of our core pillars is that this is a communication skill, not a technical skill. Because if you think about interacting, and I'm talking, if there's AI purists listening, I'm talking about Gen AI through the chat interface, which is the most people's window into the world of AI, like how you use Chat GPT. We're not talking about API stuff and integration stuff. We're talking about
Okay.
this level here of the easiest way for me to explain this is I'll give you an example, and then I'll give people a test that they can run themselves. So the example is if you, Kevin, said, "Hey Pete, I need a big favor. My my long lost grandma's got sick, and I need to take my wife and kids over for 3 weeks. Can you come and run my business for the next 3 weeks?" Now, I'm a relatively smart guy, and I think if I said yes, I'm like, sure. And you're like, great, I'm gone tomorrow. Here's the keys to the office. This is the password to the computer. See you later. I think I could keep your business afloat whilst you're away, but I think it would be a complete gong show. Like when it got back, I'd be like, okay, well, I invoiced this person, I did this. And you're like, well, they didn't owe me money. I'm like, okay, well, I thought they did because of this. And we did this call with this person. You're like, who's that person? I'm like, I don't know. They sent you an email. I thought we should do a call. And I've released this podcast. You're like, that one isn't due to be released until September. You're like, well, I didn't know it's an out. But your business would be running. Now, if you think about the reason I use that stupid analogy is because if you think about the average length of the communication most people give in a prompt to AI, it sounds very similar. Like, write me a blog post on. Like, you're giving it a 10-word instruction. So, why you would think that anything, human, artificial intelligence, would have the context of what that means to actually do it well is it kind of boggles me as to why people go, why would you think that would work? Like you're going to give it 11 words and you think that that's enough? Try that with any human.
Yeah.
Like, try it. Like, just try it. Like, find the smartest person you know and ask them to do something important to you and limit it to 12 words. See what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Because I'm willing to bet they would do something that was categorically wrong, contextually wrong, but textbook correct.
Yeah.
Like it would tick the box of the thing, but it would not be something usable in any way, shape, or form. This is further compounded because AI has been coded to be people pleasing. The reason that ChatGPT has hit 700 million monthly users is not because it goes, Kevin, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Is because it goes, hey, Kevin, of course I can do that for you. Here it is. And it answers the question so eloquently that you become misguided into thinking that the information that's contained inside the eloquent communication is correct, when often it's incorrect. It just looks good. Here's the test. The test for everybody is to go back to a recent prompt that they've put in and ask one question. In order to do this job to the best of your capabilities, Tell me anything and everything you would have needed to know in order to do it. And what you'll find is any large language model, any AI will go, sure, here's the 28 things you haven't told me. And you'll be like, oh, so I asked you to write me a blog post and you needed to know what the current state of the market was, what the average blog length is at the moment, who your audience is, what your goals are, what your vision is, what your products are, what your three core beliefs are. And it will spit out 30 things that it needed to know to answer that question. And it's the people pleasing that makes it so dangerous. Because if we rewind to that early example, if you said, "Hey, I'm going to have to go and look after my long lost grandmother. I'm going to have to take the family, and I'm leaving tomorrow." If you then said to me, "What do you need to know in order to run the business for me for 2 weeks? Tell me now, and I'll record it all before I leave tomorrow morning." Then I'd go, "Okay, cool. Are there any outstanding invoices that we need to chase up? Is there any invoices I need to send in the next 2 weeks? What are the three most important calls I absolutely must not make a mistake with? Are there any calls I should avoid? Is there anything that must happen?" I would give you a list of 20 things that I absolutely need to know. AI doesn't do that, and that's the most worrying thing. If people go, "Write me a blog post," they're like, "Wow, it's amazing." You hand that to any copywriter in the world, and they would look at it and go, "This is terrible. This is abject bad." So my guide for people is a communication, an instruction to AI should be around 1,000 words.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
At that level, it probably knows enough to do a passably good job at what it's doing.
Yeah.
Anything less than that, you're probably going to get something that looks great but is secretly terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, we have definitely got some context set here for the folks listening to
Context
this.
is everything.
Yes. So, okay. So now that we've done that, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. And I'm going to restate the question for the benefit of our listeners. So, Peter, I'm going to ask you, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
I you talked we talked about this kind of in the
Yeah.
green room before, and I don't know, it's almost impossible to choose
Okay.
because my book was named after one of my first mentors. I had a business partner, Philippe Truche was my business partner in my hospitality business, who taught me so much about how to show up in a with discipline and diligence next to a goal. You've got at the very beginning of the story, my dad gave me my first computer. My dad took me to the show that introduced me to the guy that invented the web.
Yeah.
Tom Bell gave me the job working for Yale.co.uk when I had no qualifications and no industry experience.
Wow.
If it wasn't for him, I'd have never got into this. And we haven't even spoke about my wife, my kids, who show up there every day. I think there is no there is some things are so true that they become like truisms, but we are all built on the shoulders of great men and women.
Yeah.
Nobody is self-made
Yeah.
at all.
For sure.
So, and that doesn't make your achievements any less. It just allows you to honor what's happened. There's also people that have massively screwed me over that have also built resilience and tenacity and grit and resolve and showed me the error of my ways. So I think there's probably an example a day
Yeah.
of people that you go, yeah, if that person hadn't done that.
Yeah.
Like we were tracking back the other day. I just signed a deal with somebody that's going to hopefully do really quite well for us. And we just tracked back that we met at a networking event. And the only reason I was at that networking event was because a friend of mine asked me to, who I'm a co-founder of his business, asked me to present the business, and then he couldn't go, so I had to go on my own to present it. The
Okay.
only reason I met him was because I was in another networking group with him just before that. The only reason I was there was because I sat next to somebody in a Tony Robbins room that was part of that room. The only reason I was in the Tony Robbins space was because I got gifted a ticket to UPW in Birmingham in 2017. The only reason I got gifted that ticket, and so on and so forth. If you keep going back, what's called Leroy Snicket, a series of unlikely events.
Yes. Yeah.
Like none of these paths are predictable going forwards. Right? You can't look and say, oh, because I'm doing this with Kevin, Jim is going to listen to this podcast and Jim might call me and then Jim knows this person who knows this person and in
You
38
can't
years
track going
time
forward.
you can't try going forwards, right? And I was on another podcast the other day and somebody asked me to speak into the power of saying no. And he was like, I'm sure you agree. I'm like, actually, I don't agree. He's like, what? I'm like, well, there you are. There's a no. I'm like, but that was ironic. But
That was ironic, isn't
but
it?
what I said to him was, I think that first of all, I say this quite regularly: the right advice at the wrong time is still the wrong advice. So, for example, when I was starting my weight journey, people were going, "Oh, you should try intermittent fasting. Oh, you should try keto. Oh, you should try this. Oh, you should try this." I'm like, no, what I need to do is eat less and move more. Like I've got at the time I had 70 kilos to lose, so like 160 pounds.
Okay.
I'm like, when you got 160 pounds to lose, you don't need to be doing keto or intermittent fasting. You just need to just get your ass out the chair and move more and stop putting as much food in your mouth. Like that's the formula. And actually, if I started to invest time into any of their pieces of advice, it would have been me just trying to find an easier way to do the thing I actually needed to do. I'm not saying that keto or intermittent fasting isn't correct. I'm saying it's correct when I've got 10, 20, 30 kilos left to lose at the end, not at the beginning. The right advice at the wrong time is still the wrong advice. It's one of the reasons YouTube is so crazy dangerous because people need to work out how to do email marketing. So they'll go and watch some stuff on YouTube. It's like all the things they told you are correct once you actually know what you're doing. What you need to do right now is just send some emails. That's your step. That's all you need to do. So the right advice at the wrong time is still the wrong advice. Coming back to your question, or my question, or wherever it came from, I think up until the point where you know why you're on this planet, I think you should say yes to as many things as possible. I think if it's not going to kill you and it's not addictive, you should say yes. I think you should go, yep, I'm going to try it. Yep, I'm going to try it. Yep, I'm going to try it. And stay with inside integrity by telling people what that means. So it's not like, yes, I'm going to commit my life to X, Y, Z. It's like, yeah, I'll give it a few weeks and see what happens. I think if people say, do you want to come to New Orleans this weekend? The answer is yes. I think if people say, do you want to come and work for a month in Brazil? The answer is yes. Like, yes, 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 and yes. Until you know your place and purpose, then I think you start saying no.
Okay.
Be- Because no's allow you to focus on your North Star. They're like, nope, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to do this. And I've now got some idea and some intentionality and some direction to my life. But up until then, don't cut off the possibilities. And this is where I get a little bit university and a little bit woo, but I think the universe is consistently visiting us and saying, here's a gift, here's an opportunity. And I think we're all so busy that we pass them by and we don't see them. And I think literally this in my head, the universe kind of goes, okay, I'll come back tomorrow. If you're too busy, I'll come back tomorrow. Oh, you're busy, I'll come back tomorrow. And if you think through these awesome things I have in my life now and how unintentional they were looking forwards, then if I was to allow myself to, I could be terrified by all of the things that I don't have in my life because of the little tiny no's that I gave because I just wanted to sit on the sofa. So, and I think a few people might relate to this. A friend of mine just got pregnant for the first time with their first child. And he said, "Do you have any advice?" I'm like, "Yeah, travel." And he went, "While she's pregnant?" I'm like, "Yes, while she's pregnant." And he's like, "Do you realize how hard that's going to be?" I'm like, "Nowhere near as hard as it's going to be when you got a kid." I'm like, "Trust me, for you to go to the supermarket right now, it means you walk to the door, pick up your keys, get in the car, and drive to the supermarket." He's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah." I'm like,
Pretty soon it ain't going to be like that.
"Doesn't look like that when you got children, my friend."
That's right.
Like,
Speaking from a guy who has 7 kids, I know what
yeah,
that's like.
yeah. Just going to Walmart becomes a 2.5 hour prep.
Yeah.
I'm like, so if you think Walmart is a 2.5 hour prep, what do you think Costa Rica is?
Yeah.
Like, it becomes weeks worth of effort just to do this thing that used to be the most simple thing ever. And I kind of feel that we spend a lot of our lives making up these reasons why we can't, shouldn't, won't, when really there will be a point in time in the future, whether it's because we have children or dependents or because we have businesses or because we get old or because we have older parents, where we actually do have some actual should, couldn't, and wouldn't moments.
Yeah.
Like things that actually do constrain your capabilities and possibilities. So if you're 20 or 30, and the other question people ask me coming from this, well, how do I know if I know what my place is? I'm like, if you even ask that question, then you don't know what your
You
place
don't know
is.
your place. Yeah.
Because as you said, alignment for me and AI, like I'm not saying it's joyous, it is, but it's the most aligned I've ever felt. Like I
In
know
all the stuff you've ever done before.
100%. I
Really? Wow.
Everything I've ever done, I think was a lead up to this
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
web and mobile were not paradigm shifts. They were tools that we could use as humans.
Uh-huh.
Every single piece of technology from fire till now was about how do you help a human do their thing better, cheaper, quicker, faster. Like that's what our world was. AI's promise is not that we help you do it better, cheaper, quicker, faster. AI's promise is it will do it for you instead of you needing to do it. So it is a fundamental shift in how we have relationships, how we look after our health, how we interact with God and with spirituality. Like everything shifts when you turn around and go, "Oh, we are no longer the smartest thing on the planet." That that has been a presence since literally swamp time to now. We were the apex predator. We were it. There was nothing that came close to competing with us on how smart we were.
Yeah.
And we have just invented something smarter than us that is working on itself without ego stopping its development.
Yeah.
So web and mobile were fantastic and great, and I loved them, and I had some great clients and great times and great fun, and hopefully I did some great stuff. But this is bigger in every single way. This is this is there isn't almost isn't an analogy. It's like being alive when Homo sapiens took over versus Neanderthals, or being alive when fire was finally invented, or being alive when you sent the first telegram message across the Atlantic. Like this is one of those moments. This is a 1966 one small step for man moment,
Yeah.
but instead of witnessing it on a TV, we're all living it in the present in the present tense.
Yeah.
So it's too big. It's too big to ignore. And with two young children, 10 and 8, I don't think I have any choice but to do what I'm doing. And it's why I only try and work with entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and small businesses because I don't really want to help big businesses earn more money at the cost of laying off 20% of their staff. That doesn't appeal to me. It would be far more profitable. And the job offers I get in that area are super cool and fun. But to me, that promise of and comes from enabling entrepreneurship across the gamut of going, okay, you've got a great idea. Because most people are terrible entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs are terrible at being entrepreneurs.
They try to
They,
do it all.
well, yeah, but they make the mistake of thinking because they're great at their craft that that's enough to run a great business. and it's just not true. The amount of coaches that I know, like one of my clients used to coach, used to be the head of coaching for a huge company. Which I don't want to mention it because I don't want to embarrass him, but Fortune 50 level company.
Okay.
Had an argument with the CEO, quit, and decided he was going to do it on his own. And him and I have discussed that first day at work when he suddenly realizes that he's now the lawyer, the accountant, the salesperson, the marketing person, the HR department, the ops person, the logistics person, that he can no longer do the thing he was great at,
Yeah.
which is just being a coach. He now has to do 15 other roles in order to do the one role that he's really good at doing. So that's where I think AI becomes this beautiful leveler because if AI can step in and go, no, don't worry, I can run the HR, I can run the legal, I can run the accounting, I can run this, I can run this, and he can just go back to being just a great coach, then he can earn 300, $400,000 a year just being a great coach. And if you can do it, this is another, I know we're dotting around the place at the moment, but the other thing that becomes really quite interesting is margins go up in your business from 20% to potentially 80, 90%. Because if you could buy the $100 a month AI that can run that part of the company, then you don't have to spend the money on the teams, the people, and the thing. So you could literally just go, I get to keep that money. And at the moment, if you want to earn enough to put your kids through college, say you've got two kids and you live in California, as an entrepreneur, you'd have to clear about $2 million in the business to have enough to actually build a college fund.
Mhm.
Because if you think about it, $2 million, say you're on a 40% margin, which is a respectable number,
Yep.
you'd be earning 800,000 a year. You're going to pay 50% tax, which gets you down to 400,000 a year. If you lived in San Diego, average rent on that kind of size property is going to be about 8,000 a month right now. So that's after tax, that's 100,000. So our 400 is now 300,000. Add in food, add in expenses, add in healthcare. You're down to about 150K left,
Yeah.
which is about where you need to be if you've got two kids to put through college,
Yeah.
which is an absurd, an obscene number to think you would have to build a $2 million business in order to provide for your family at a comfortable. I'm not saying that's a minimum number, but that should be an expectation if you're a 20-year veteran in whatever you do and you're working for yourself, you should be able to afford that. So it's wild to me that you'd have to earn so much because of that margin and the tax.
Yeah.
Whereas if you could have a 90% margin business, that game changes real quick
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then you could just earn 500,000 to earn 400,000. Like the numbers just change massively,
Yeah.
which means you don't need to spend 18 hours a day at work.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, this has been a fascinating conversation, Peter, and I'm really grateful that Cheryl connected you and I, and that we got to know each other a little bit, and that led to this. For anybody that's listening to this right now going, man, Kevin, I really like Peter. Man, I mean, what he's talking about. Yeah, you're right, Kev. This is fascinating. And I'd like to find out more. I've never heard anybody talk about AI the way Peter has. Any websites, any resources that we can share with them, Peter?
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to. So the first would be all of our socials are the same. So Peter Swain 24/7. So
Okay.
PeterSwain 247. And then the website is peterswain.com. And I'd love to offer anyone that listens to this a free trial to our mastermind. We have a call every Thursday and we help people figure out AI, which is peterswain.com/mastermind.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
click there, it's a free trial. Come and see us for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Because to me, it's just so important that we help people understand what this is so they can make an informed choice and really access the power of it. Because we used to play this game on stage. We used to say to people, if you had a choice of earning the same amount of money and working half the time or earning twice as much money, which would you choose? And the game got blown out of the water because eventually someone said, well, I choose choice C. I want both. I'm like, yeah, I prefer that option as well. So
Mhm.
that's where we try and help people get how do you earn twice as much money in half as much time? And we've got 250 people there now. We've doing it for 3 years. Most of our members have stuck around since day one,
Wow.
um, because it's about how do we help them and how do we serve. And it's really humbling and fulfilling to be able to have that role. I used to call it humble arrogance. I'm humbled that something someone chose me to do this, and I'm arrogant enough to think I can actually make a difference. So
Yeah. Well, good
um,
for you.
thank you, and thank you again for the opportunity. It's such an interesting subject with so many voices in the space now in AI, that I think it's quite hard for people to understand where to go with it. And I
Yeah.
think what most people do is they pick it up and they get mediocre results. And then they hear it on the news and they hear it, look at it in the papers, and it's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. But when they pick it up, they don't get something usable. They're like, well, it's okay. And it's like, yeah, because you've been taught you're kind of running 5 miles left instead of walking 10 yards right.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get this context, give it more context, you start seeing dramatically different results.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, and I'm excited to get this out there and share it with a lot of folks. So thanks again, Peter.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Same.